From the bottom of my heart, I am Satanized. Heresy. I'm Satanized. Satanized. Hello, just getting the YouTube chat set up really quick because I have to do this every time. And we will be all set to go. I'm in a mood, so if I'm mean to people, don't be mad at me, okay? Maybe that's what you guys want anyway. Maybe you just want violence. Happy birthday, Ashton. Happy birthday. Perchance a regular focal cleansing? We may very well get a regular focal cleansing. Absolutely. Let's work on that. Let's get that set up. Regular focal cleaning. Let's do it. Welcome, welcome. We did just start. You learned cool sun fusion facts today. Nice. Yeah, this is going to be a debateology course. How's my audio, by the way? I'm trying a new microphone kind of setup, so we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Because I found that on Unapologetic, my audio in the live is fine, but my audio in the recording, like the VOD afterwards, is atrocious. And I don't understand that at all. But I'm glad that it's working. All right, so we are all set up. We have the YouTube waiting room ready to go. We have the TikTok waiting room, as always, ready to go. We have the YouTube chat out. And I guess we're all set. I had to debate one of my God-loving friends today. Hopefully this will give me argument tips. Yeah. So I might be, well, I guess we'll see. Oh, do I want to talk to FC Economics? We've talked about so many things before. Let's see if he has something new that he wants to talk about. FC, how's it going?
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. How you doing? 1 second. Yeah.
Are we talking about something new today?
Well, what I thought I'd do is I'll refer you to my published paper, because you like published stuff, don't you?
I do like published stuff.
Okay, so if you go to Journal of Economics, Theology and Religion, 2024.
Journal of Economic Theology and Religion?
Yeah, Economics, Theology and Religion.
That is a wild journal. Why is this a journal?
I mean, because the stuff I talk about, because actually, you know
Wait,
about
who founded this journal?
I think it's like a Dutch kind of institute. But economics has got a strong links to theology historically.
Economics has a strong link to theology. Does it though?
Yeah. Like, so you heard of Adam Smith?
I know who Adam Smith is. Yeah.
He was a moral philosopher before. Like a lot of them, like it's kind of well established. Like it comes out. I mean, even in the West, it comes out of moral philosophy. The Bible. The Torah talks about economic stuff all the time. The Sabbath's about economics.
Is it though?
It is, yeah. I mean, you can read the paper.
Anyway, you said that you said you have a paper. Yeah,
2024. I explained this in the paper with references and stuff. 2024. And you'll see a paper about the Sabbath.
They only published 5 papers in 2024.
It's quite a new journal. It's not very this area is not very popular. It's not like a popular area.
Okay, I have a feeling I know which one you are.
Yes, yeah. It's obvious.
Is it the geometric model of debt one?
Yeah, it is, and that is where I link economics to both mathematics via Pythagoras theorem and the Sabbath commandment. And we don't have to talk about much more now, but you can see the first part of the paper. I explain how the Sabbath's about economics, and I relate it to like the idea of salvation, liberation, Liberation Day is all linked. And so here is a model that derives basically the idea of the Sabbath commandment using mathematics, and therefore it kind of provides a indirect proof of the biblical cosmology as well. I think you can put 2 and 2 together through the Sabbath commandment because it retells the story. So it's kind of say why the number 7 makes sense. So yeah, I was reluctant to share, but I thought I would. Like this stuff.
I'm curious what the peer review process was like.
It's pretty standard. Yeah, sent the paper.
I mean, like, what were the reviews like?
I mean, they were pretty. Well, got through. I got it published, so it was pretty positive overall. I mean, I've had it. I've also shared it at universities in the UK. Had feedback. I've shared it amongst professionals, and a lot of people. A lot of it is really interesting. A lot of the feedback is kind of like, I would say, this is interesting, but probably don't have time to look into it. Obviously, these people did look into it, and I think that was felt it was kind of sufficiently rigorous. That said, I would say linking.
Is this a proof of the Pythagorean theorem that I see?
Well, I'm showing that economics links to Pythagorean theorem. That's what I'm not of the Pythagorean theorem. It's saying.
Sorry, I have to shut down my live really quick. Or actually, I'm going to appeal it, but it might get shut down. I might have to restart it.
So I'm showing that economics can be linked to Pythagoras theorem. So that's linking economics to science in a way. That's the kind of scientific bit I talk about, and I show that when you do that, incidentally, the Sabbath commandment you back out the Sabbath commandment from it. So that's why it's really interesting. I'm saying, if you take this kind of scientific approach to economics, it aligns with the biblical cosmology. It aligns with the Sabbath commandment. That shouldn't be if it's fake. So I think it's right up your street. It's for people like you.
I need to restart my live. Sorry, bud.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna restart it, guys. Don't worry. Okay. I'll see you guys all in a minute. And if you're watching on TikTok, you can still see me. No issues there. It's just TikTok's being very, very strange, very, very glitchy. Let's try that again. Save me. I'm Satanized. Satanized. Yeah, it's a weird paper. He actually mentions inner product spaces, which is kind of surprising. I didn't think that economists knew what inner product spaces were. I mean, I don't think that this is right. Okay, he's just defining a unit vector space. Okay, well, hopefully the lag is gone. I don't think it's on my end, but hopefully it will. Hopefully it'll clean up. It is. Okay, good. All right, we're bringing back up the economics, but you don't get to stay for long. You don't get to stay for long because I haven't read your thing.
Oh no, that's fine. Yeah, I won't take for long, so I won't take the time. But at least you've got it. And you from there link to you see the shape in my profile. It actually provides a link between the circle itself and this shape actually. And when you read it, actually kind of this ratio of 6 to 7, it justifies that. And so you know if you want to, you've got it there. Scientific approach to the Bible that align, and there you go. You've got a paper. All right.
I promise I'll take a look at some point.
Oh, I appreciate that. And it's a proof of biblical technology. All right, see you later.
Take care, FC.
Bye.
All right, let's bring up a guest that I haven't spoken to 100 times before. FC and I go way back. He's kind of a crackpot, but he's a nice crackpot. Don't take too much offense there. I'm also a crackpot, FC. Don't worry. So, Nate, how's it going?
Hey, how are you doing? Doing well.
I'm doing all right. What religion do you have?
I'm a generalist, but I mean, I'm not particularly like Abrahamic or anything like that. I'm just generally believe in religion.
In religion or in God?
Well, God. I believe all religions are correct in a way. But
Well, they can't be all correct, right?
Yeah, they can.
Well, no, I mean, some of them are mutually exclusive.
I don't know of any that are. Like,
Well, I mean, for
I'm not-
example, any Abrahamic faith and Hinduism are mutually exclusive because under the Abrahamic faith, there is a stipulation that there's only one God, but Hinduism has many.
Yeah, I'm saying that they're like in a meta way they're correct, not technically correct because they're they're man's words, you know what I mean? But they're trying to convey an idea, but they're used religion. They use religion to control man, to make laws.
So, do you believe in a God?
Oh, for sure, absolutely. And
How many?
I think if God were to try to talk to us, he would use religion. Like
How many gods do you believe in?
I don't know how many there are, but ultimately there's one.
Okay, so then you think that Hinduism is wrong?
No, because Hinduism can be correct. They believe in all gods. They also accept all religion. They accept all gods. They'll accept the Abrahamic God as well as the Buddha God.
Yeah, but they believe there's more than one God, right?
There can be.
But you said that
As long as
ultimately
not-
there's one.
Yeah, there could be levels of God. There could be like gods, demigods, and ultimately it has to go, filter up to one highest supreme being, right?
Not necessarily.
Well, the way I view God, that's how I view.
Okay. Right, so why
And
should I
could
believe
try
that?
to Well, I could try to convince you of that by saying, like, you have a body that's made of like little micro beings. Like when a virus enters your body, you have functions of your body that try to kill that virus. They're autonomous.
Are you okay, so just to shortcut the argument, are you saying that, well, humans are made of a whole bunch of tiny little cells, and those cells are made up of molecules, and those molecules are made up of atoms, and so there's like a hierarchy to all things, and yet you are still the ultimate? Is that the argument?
Yeah, basically we're a conglomeration of all the microorganisms that are in our body, right? Because we are inside of our body. Without our body, we wouldn't exist.
Yeah.
Like I say, the universe is the body, and it has consciousness.
When you say it has consciousness, do you mean that it contains things that have consciousness, or do you mean the universe as a whole has consciousness?
So what would be the difference?
Well, I would say that, why is my live being restricted? The difference would be something like, I would say that, I would say that a city is made up of people with consciousness, but the city itself is not conscious.
Can you be certain of that? Because
in my understanding of consciousness, absolutely yes.
I mean, have you ever read Thomas Hobbes' Leviathan? He's sort of trying to get the idea over that there is a city is an organism.
Metaphorically, it's an organism, but it's not literally an organism.
I mean, how can you say the Earth doesn't have consciousness? Like, there's a bunch of beings on it. What if we're like the brains of the Earth?
You could say what if all you want, but you would have to demonstrate that it is conscious.
Okay, well, it's falsifiable that the universe has beings that are conscious within it, and the universe therefore has consciousness because of the beings.
Hold on, to be clear, something having consciousness inside of it is not the same as the thing itself being conscious. The room I'm in has consciousness inside of it, but the room I'm in isn't conscious.
Yeah, but you're not like part of the room. You're contained within the room.
Yeah, and I'm contained within the Earth, in a sense.
Okay, but not the universe. You're a part of the universe. You're not contained within it.
I'm contained within the universe, absolutely.
No, you're not. You're a part of it. The universe.
The universe is the container of all things.
No, the universe isn't the container. The universe is all things. It's not
I
the
mean, that's the
container of all things.
semantic difference, I suppose.
That's
But
not semantic at all.
suffice it to say, what does any of this have to do with God?
The universe has consciousness and it is the ultimate consciousness. How can it not be God?
Okay, so do you have any views that are distinct from that of a naturalistic worldview?
I don't think I could convince anybody that.
No, that wasn't my question. I'm asking in what ways, in what substantial ways do your views differ from those of a naturalist?
Does a naturalist think the universe itself has consciousness?
I mean substantive ways. By the way, your mic is pretty quiet. I don't know if you can turn it up a little bit. Oh, no, never mind. I can turn you up. You're good.
Do you mean like Spinoza was a naturalist? Do you mean like
yes, in that sense?
Universe like that? I mean, I feel like I don't know if it's the same or not, but I can't tell you. I can't answer that question.
Okay, so because it sounds like you're just attributing consciousness to something that I don't think, like, because you have a funky view of what consciousness is, but it doesn't seem like you and I actually have a substantive difference of difference in beliefs of the facts of the matter. We just have difference in definitions and notions of that variety. So I don't know if there's much to talk about.
I guess because if there's no way to ever know the universe, there's no way to ever prove that the universe has consciousness. You just have to deduce it from what you can observe, but it seems so obvious. And so in a way,
I mean, with your idiosyncratic definition of conscious, I suppose, but with my definition of conscious, it's obviously not the case. It's just a difference of definition. That's all.
Just look at what your consciousness is. It's just an electrochemical reaction.
Yeah,
it's a result of an electrochemical reaction
with a subjective experience, with independence of other bodies, with memories, and with processing ability, with
it's
a
just
sense
like
of
self-awareness. Just like self-awareness being the result of an electrochemical process.
Yeah.
But that electrochemical process is not unique.
Well, you're right. In some sense it is unique, but in the sense that like any configuration of atoms is essentially unique. But
it's like saying there couldn't be you can't imagine that there's a larger version of an electrochemical process that.
Well, but there's not. Our universe doesn't run on electrochemistry. That's the point.
Your body doesn't run on it. You have electrochemistry.
Our body does run on electrochemical processes. Absolutely, it does. That's what chemistry is.
Everything in the body? Okay, maybe. But anyhow, the universe definitely has electrical chemical processes in it that are outside of your body. It's not just your body.
Sure, but there is no unified electrochemical network that does processing in the universe.
I don't know how you can say that.
Because we can look at it in the universe and we don't see it. There is no unified electrochemical processing hub. It just doesn't exist.
Unified, which means you don't see the correlation between all the dynamic actions.
Yeah, so the relationship between objects in the universe is gravitational, not electrochemical.
I mean, electrical chemistry is still happening in the universe, even though there's gravity. And
yeah, it's just not the dominant factor.
You're saying, right? And electrochemical process is not the dominant factor in our body. Obviously, it's gravity too.
Of course, it is.
It's drives your being more than gravity does.
Yeah,
you say that gravity.
It's the thing that literally holds our bodies together.
Gravity.
No, electrochemistry, or in particular, chemistry.
Gravity is more fundamental than that. You wouldn't even be on Earth if it wasn't for gravity. Gravity is obviously the most fundamental. If it is in the universe, it is for your body as well.
No. Humans can exist without gravity. Humans can exist without electricity and magnetism.
How would your body? How could you
exist in space? We can go to space and we're fine.
You're held together by a suit. It's a.
No, you're not held together by a suit. You're held together by chemistry.
If you go out in space and you don't wear a spacesuit, you're going to explode.
That's chemistry. You're not held together by gravity.
I'm not denying that there's the chemistry is a part of what is what
no
makes
chemistry.
It, saying,
chemistry is all that's required for life. You don't, in principle, need gravity.
I don't know how you can deny that gravity is not the fundamental nature of our being if it is for the universe. Like,
because gravity works on very, very large scales. Gravity is dominant on scales, roughly the size of a planet or bigger. Electromagnetism is dominant on scales roughly the size of a planet or smaller.
So you're willing to have faith that life and consciousness can exist in scattered particles.
That's such bad faith. You're willing to have faith that. Come on, don't do that.
You're saying you're saying conscious life can exist in space without gravity.
We can literally go to space
and explode.
No, you don't explode in space. You might die because there's no atmosphere, but that has nothing to do with gravity.
Your body pressure would push all your particles apart.
No, it wouldn't. That's not a thing.
What are you talking about? If you go into space without a spacesuit on, which is artificial gravity,
your eyes might pop.
Your whole body would explode.
But you would not explode, no.
You have external pressure fighting the forces of gravity on Earth right now. You have external pressure from within to fight the forces of the pressure.
No, it doesn't fight gravity. Your skin is tough enough. You wouldn't explode.
I've seen every science fiction movie I've ever watched.
That's science fiction.
But you're just saying trust me that you wouldn't, because it seems like it makes sense that it would explode because there's external pressure.
It turns out the pressure difference between the where we live now and the vacuum of space is 14 psi, which isn't very much.
But you just had to be super technical and saying if you took the body that's created on Earth and put it into space, it could then.
My point is that okay, this is like it's a stupid argument because what you're saying is that chemistry is not fundamental. Chemistry is the only thing that makes life happen. Gravity doesn't make life happen.
I'm not saying chemistry is not fundamental. I never said that.
Well, you said that gravity was fundamental, not chemistry.
Well, I'm saying gravity is also, yeah. I did say it was the main the main fundament, but not the only fundament. Okay, all right, but
anyway, I'm gonna let you go because this is way off topic and also not the topic. But thanks for being here, Nate.
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
Take care. All right, let's bring up somebody who's been crying in the comments. Watch them be 14. All right, y'all, remember to like the live, tap the live. If you like what you see, consider, supporting the live too, because this will be my day job for a few months anyway. Worldwide, how's it going?
Yeah, good.
How old are you?
I am 17.
No, you're not. Well, you might be 17, but you're not allowed to be here then. Well, how did I know that? How did I know that he was going to be a child? You have to be 18 plus, bro. Got to be 18 plus. Eamon, how's it going?
Hey, I'm not here to really debate you. I'm
Okay, well,
here
it is a
to
debate
ask you.
live.
Yeah. I'm here more with questions about atheism
Okay.
because I am agnostic and trying to find out my religion. So
Sure,
I'm
fire away.
trying to hear your points on atheism and why you don't believe in God.
Sure.
Yeah, can you explain your points?
Oh, I thought you were going to ask questions. Yeah, the world around us, the data that we have seems to suggest that all minds are attached to bodies. The data that we have seems to suggest that all physical effects have physical causes. Those two features, if we accept them as true, preclude the existence of an immaterial God that caused the universe to exist. We also have good reason to think that while our scientific understanding of the world is not complete, our scientific understanding of the world will continue to increase. And so questions that were once thought to be outside of the realm of science, like what is consciousness, how did the universe begin, and such, those seem plausibly within reach of the scientific endeavor, at least in the distant future. So it just seems like God doesn't offer much explanatory power now, and likely will offer no explanatory power in the future. So by Occam's razor, it seems like we definitely just shouldn't accept the existence of a god.
Yeah, that's a fair point. I have one question about like the beginning of life. So to me, like the world starting from a bang that came from nothing doesn't really make sense to me.
Well, that's not
So
the consensus either. Nobody thinks it came from nothing.
what
Well,
did
okay,
it
a
came
few
from
people think
then?
it came from nothing, but not like true nothing.
Yeah, what did it came from then? To your belief?
Oh, I think that it may have always existed. Grimlock, thank you for the $5. I appreciate you. Will it work? Who knows?
A what?
I was just thanking a guest. I think that it likely always existed.
Always.
Yes.
And how do you back that?
Well, it's consistent with the data that we have. There are a plethora of theoretical models that predict a forever existing universe. Yeah, I mean, like the only reason I lean that way is because it's consistent with the data we have, and there's a lot of different ways that this can happen.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds reasonable. Like that it has always existed. Yeah, that's good. But what about like the existence of Jesus Christ? Like
He was a guy that
sh-
existed and then got
yeah,
killed.
yeah, but the sheer amount of proof that he existed and
I
did
agree that he
miracles
existed.
and okay, but like the proof of him doing miracles and coming back to life 3 days after his crucifixion. What do you think about that?
I don't think he
Do you
did.
believe in it?
I don't think that he
Like
came back, no.
the amount of people who saw him and claim he did
Well,
miracles.
they say they saw him. I don't know if they actually did see him. That's the question, right?
That sounds fair, but there were like the apostles John, for example. There were people with him who were with Jesus who can prove
Well,
that they
keep
were
in
with
mind
John who were with Jesus.
they didn't recognize him when he came back. So how do we even know it was him?
Did they not recognize him?
No, that's actually one of the main parts of the Bible, that like the people that he came to didn't recognize him as Jesus at first, and he had to remind them. Hey, he's like, hey, I have returned, I'm Jesus. That's like the whole thing in the Bible.
Does that read in the Bible?
Yes, that's really in the Bible. Even his own mother didn't recognize him, if I remember correctly.
That's interesting. I'm not really sure myself. Like I'm still agnostic and trying to like figure stuff out to what I believe in. That's why I'm interested in your beliefs.
Well, now you know them.
Now I know them. Thank you.
Of
I
course.
really don't much more to say. I'm gonna think about your points.
Okay.
Your points were interesting. I'm thankful for you.
Of course. Thanks for being here, bud.
Thank you. I'm gonna go now, and thank you for having me here.
Of course.
And I hope you have a good life.
Likewise. Take care. All right, I'm going to bring up a guest from the TikTok stream. Answering the call to apologetics. Can you hear me all right?
Hi, how's it going? Can you hear me?
I can. Your mic is kind of loud. I'm going to turn you down just a smidge. Yeah, so I take it that you believe in Jesus.
Yeah, I actually had a question for you. What evidence
By the way,
would
Boggs...
you...
Sorry, one sec. Boggs of Mortar, thank you for the $5. I appreciate you. I'll read your super chat later. Go ahead.
What evidence would you accept to prove that God exists in your worldview?
It could be a whole bunch of different kinds. Archaeological evidence that Jesus actually resurrected would be interesting. some sort of like philosophical deductive argument that whose premises I accept would be interesting. Some sort of empirical evidence that increases the probability that God exists relative to my priors. That would also be interesting. There's a lot of ways that in principle I could be convinced.
So that's interesting that you use empirical evidence, or that you would accept Jesus. That's I
mean, if we had archaeological evidence that Jesus actually rose from the dead, then yeah, why would I not accept that?
What about the Shroud of Turin? Is that not good enough?
Well, no, it carbon dates to the 1300s, and that corresponds with the historical record as well.
Well, the carbon dated portion was actually a repair that was made.
Well, that's the claim anyway. But the first time the Shroud of Turin ever appeared in the historical literature, the first time it ever appeared at all, as far as anybody can tell, was in the 1300s. A man brought it forward and said, "Hey, I have the burial cloth of Jesus," and they presented it to, I think it was a cardinal, or it may have been a bishop, and then the bishop determined it was fake, and the guy that presented it admitted that it was fake. So why don't we just believe him? The guy that first discovered the Shroud of Turin admitted it was fake. Why do you not believe him?
There was a lot of peddling of relics in the Middle Ages.
Yeah, so why did he admit it was fake if it wasn't fake?
Well, that's that was just an off the cuff question. Well, I want to focus more on what you would accept as far as like empirical evidence. What kind of empirical evidence would you accept, or philosophical evidence?
I mean, any sort of deductive argument whose premises I accept, I will be forced to accept the conclusion. So
that's what I mean. Like, what premises would you accept as far as a philosophical?
I don't know what the premises of. I don't know what the premises are, because I'm not the one making the argument. You would have to make the argument and see if I accept the premises, or rather, try to convince me of the premises, perhaps.
So, in other words, I mean, I don't know if that's like. Do you find that to be a good faith way to accept an argument, or? I mean, if you could lay
I don't even know what the argument is. How am I supposed to know what the premises are if I don't know what the argument is?
What about Pascal's wager?
That's not a deductive argument.
That's a philosophical.
Also, no, it's not. It's not when I say deductive argument, I mean like some sort of syllogism. But Pascal's wager is wholly unconvincing, because I mean it's characteristically flawed in assuming that the only two possible gods, or the only two possible options, are no God or the Christian God.
But there's an explanation for multiple gods in biblical literature. Do you not?
Well,
agree?
no. I mean, what if the Hindu gods are the right ones? Then Pascal's wager says that you should actually be Hindu, not Christian.
Again, there's an explanation for that in Christian literature.
No, but what if the Hindu gods are real and Christianity is false? Then you should believe in Hinduism, according to Pascal's wager. Well, that's the thing.
All of these religions, including Hinduism, do make a similar claim in that there are multiple spirits, gods, that sort of thing. But the most in-depth explanation, which would be logically acceptable, would be in the Christian worldview, particularly the ancient church worldview.
Why is that superior to the Hindu explanation?
Because they've had more historical relevance, and
the Hinduism has been around much longer than Christianity, and it's had more people, more practitioners over the course of history than Christianity has.
That's neither here nor there when it comes to evidence.
What's the evidence for Christianity?
The writings, the miracles.
The Hindu writings are older than the Christian writings. There are Hindu miracles too that happen.
I don't want to go too far down the rabbit hole of the Christian writings, but actually there are more documented Christian miracles than any other religion in the world.
How many Hindu miracles have you looked into?
I've looked into quite a few of them, and a lot of them are. Yeah, I've looked at these. There's like an Indian baby that survived. I've looked into a few different ones. It's not something that I've studied. I've done a deep dive into, but the thing is, I've looked into like a lot of Eastern and Near Eastern religion miracles and things like that, and like I don't know if you've seen like Mel Gibson got levitated by like some kind of practitioner of a martial art, like a bunch of different things like that. But there's not really as strong of a claim outside of Christianity of there being the one true God and the miracles.
What do you mean there's not as strong? I mean, how are you evaluating these claims? How are you establishing that Hinduism is weaker, has weaker evidence than Christianity? Like, what's the comparison here?
The providence of the prophets that came like through the Dead Sea Scrolls. We know that a lot of the Essene community had provident prophecies come true. They were a trusted group historically, as far
Which
as
prophecies came true?
like the ones that, okay, for example, like the Zoroastrians that came to see Jesus, known as the three wise men, those prophecies came true.
Which prophecy was that?
Like I just said, the ones that the Zoroastrians that came to see Jesus.
Wait, no, where is the prophecy? Where is the prophecy in the Hebrew Bible?
In the no, not the Hebrew Bible, the Qumran text. Only the Qumran text, about 75% of it are writings of law and practice. Most of it's not the Bible.
You're talking about that. So these are not part of the biblical canon.
Well, it depends on what you take as a biblical canon, but
whatever the standard Christian biblical canon is.
No, this is ancient Judaism. Well, not
I'm aware.
Ancient Israel.
I'm aware. The question is what book, what text are these prophecies found in? Because I've never heard about these prophecies, so I'd like to hear about them. I'd like to go see where I can go read them.
You can read them in the Qumran scrolls.
Okay, which scroll?
You know what? You'd have to look up Jesus and the Dead Sea Scrolls by Dr. John Bergsma. He gives a very specific list of all the scrolls and where you can find a lot of the things in the scroll fragments that I'm citing. And I would appreciate it if you did study this stuff. If you get the chance.
I'm not seeing anything about the Dead Sea Scrolls mentioning anything about three wise men or Zoroastrian wizards or anything.
Again, a lot of things are not going to be found on Google. Unfortunately, it's not as big as the internet is. A lot of things that you'd have to look up are behind a paywall of sorts.
I can get around paywalls.
Yeah, like buying it in print or in.
I can get around paywalls. Don't worry.
Again, yeah, that's what I'm saying. I would suggest getting his book. Maybe that's a really good place to start.
So there's no way that you can substantiate the claim like now. There's nothing I can check that will substantiate.
Suffice it to say,
otherwise we just can't really talk about it, right?
It's there. Well, I mean,
because I'm not just going to take your word on it, right?
That's kind of bad faith, isn't it?
How is that bad faith? You're telling me something that if I want to go verify the claim that you're making about a prophecy that came true, I have to go buy a book right now? That's not bad faith. That's just being genuine. I can't trust your statement. It's just a trust
that's what
me,
I'm
bro.
telling you to look into it later. This is,
well, yeah. So we can't talk about it now. So I'm not going to accept it now.
You don't have to accept it, but I mean, again, this is kind of just building up to where I'm trying to go with my argument. You don't, and this is that you can look up in general. Like you said, have I heard of Hindu miracles? Yes, I have. You can look up prophecies that came true from the Qumran community.
My understanding is,
and I wasn't, and again, I wasn't finished listing off. They also, and this is something you should be able to find for free, is that they prophesied the coming of the Messiah. They prophesied that they were in the end times.
This in the Isaiah scroll? Is that what you're referring to?
No. There are ancient Israelite writings that set out prophetic events happening in the course of every 2,000 years.
Are you referring to the War of the Messiah scroll? Or fragments?
Which
fragments are you referring to?
It may be in the War of the Messiah scroll, but in general, whether it's Hellenistic Judaism, Pharisaic, Sadduceic Judaism, any of the ancient forms of any of the ancient groups from Israel believed generally in a 2,000-year calendar of something happening every given 2,000 years. So they believed they were in the end times, and there
Can you
was
cite that
that.
source? I don't think that that's true.
Yeah, give me 1 second.
While you're doing that, I'm going to go read a super chat. The bogs of Mordor, people didn't understand much 2,000 years ago. Science wasn't very advanced. Miracles to them could be umpteen explained events. Doesn't prove God. That's a good point. And if you like what you're seeing, like the live, whether you're on TikTok or on YouTube. It helps get this out to more people. And you know, right now we're competing with, well, I mean, they're not live, but we're competing with Ian and Justin and the like, and they're pulling 1,000+ people on YouTube. We got to up our numbers, guys.
Okay, so this would be like specifically Talmudic Judaism.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
There's the timelines I can cite from the Talmud. There's the timelines from the years of chaos through the years of Torah to the days of the Messiah.
Okay, so to be clear, the Talmud wasn't finished being collated until like a few hundred years after Jesus.
It's a rabbinic Judaism text.
Okay,
and
sure.
I'm quite aware of the Talmud. But again, this is rabbinic Judaism that's modern, and the ancient idea of this also comes up in the scrolls. I don't have an exact which Q text it's from, but there is the.
Well, do you want to find one?
Yeah, sure. Let's see.
Not to give in.
Okay, so the community rule 1QS and the war scroll establish a timeline for God's kingdom and a purified community.
All right,
and
let me pull up the text. So we want 1QS. Come on, scroll. Okay, there should be a. I think here's a translation. No. Is this a translation? Okay, so I see the actual Hebrew text, but do you read Hebrew?
No, I read Greek.
Well, we need to go find a translation. Did you pull up a translation somewhere?
No, I have the translation made by Dr. Bergsma.
Okay, 1 sec. Let me see if I can just find a translation. Ah, here's one, I think. Okay, yeah, I found it. 1QS. What's the collection number? What's the verse? Or what's the sentence or whatever?
Let's see.
Or is there a phrase I should be looking for? Because I can control F too.
Yeah, I would control F. I mean, look for the battle. There should be a battle between light and darkness timeline.
Okay. Blah 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 blah. Yeah, I see. Has been revealed concerning their appointed times that they may love all the sons of light, each according to his lot in God's design, and hate all the sons of darkness. That part.
Yeah, that sounds. Yes. So their timeline, they believed it was.
This is the first collection, right? It doesn't say anything about any like 2,000-year period or anything. I don't see anything about a timeline either.
Well, they believe that they were in the end times
Yeah,
This
they all
was
did.
their
Around the late BC era and the early CE era, Jewish apocalypticism was very common.
amongst what communities?
Basically, all of them.
Where do you get that evidence?
Apocalyptic literature was an entire genre of Jewish literature. It was
I mean,
super common in that part of the world at that time.
Okay, that part of the world includes just about every other group till today.
Well, yeah, and this included the Jewish groups, right? Like Jewish apocalypticism is like sufficiently large of a genre that it has its own Wikipedia page.
Yeah, but here's the thing. This is a specific community that was literally living out those last days as a community of just men.
Well, but it wasn't the last days, right? That was the point.
It was before the coming of the Messiah. And that's one of their prophecies.
Well, I mean, that's the claim anyway, but the point is that you need to show that Jesus actually was the Messiah, right?
Well, he was one of the Messiahs. There's the Messiah. There's Messiah ben David and Messiah ben Yosef.
Okay, so you need to show that any of these messiahs were actually the Jewish Messiah. But because I could even agree with you that people were prophesying that the Messiah would come. That absolutely is a thing. People thought the end times were near. Now you have to show that actually the Messiah did come.
Okay, and what would you accept for proof? Would writings be sufficient?
Writings of what?
That's what I'm asking. That's what my whole premise coming on
Look,
to ask you.
I can't know what will convince me, because if I knew it, I would already be convinced, right?
Well, that's like saying, for example, I won't know if I can fly until I take the leap of faith jumping off of something.
It's not at all like that.
Well, in this sense, it is, because it's something you can't see, right? You've already said empirical evidence, but the thing is, the idea that we're wrestling with is not something that should be or could be empirically proven.
Okay, well then offer some other kind of evidence.
I've already given the Pasquale's wager.
But
let me ask you this.
Yeah, go ahead.
I know. You don't accept the premise of Pasquale's wager, but let me ask you this: are you like completely atheistic, or would you consider yourself to be agnostic?
I consider myself an atheist in the sense that I am fairly convinced that there is no God. I'm not like on the fence.
What part of you is not convinced that makes it fairly instead of completely?
Well, I always admit that I could be wrong about something.
Okay. Well, when I brought up miracles, you quickly went to Hindu miracles, and I also brought up other Eastern and Near Eastern religions that claim miracles. What's the explanation overall? Is that the part that maybe you'd be wrestling with? Is like
the explanation overall for what?
Of the miracles, what, like, as opposed to, okay, Abrahamic religion being wrong, would it be more acceptable for you to believe something like a Hindu religion or a Buddhist religion of enlightenment, something like that?
I mean, like, look, I'm just fairly convinced that there isn't a God. There are religious traditions that are atheists, particular types of Buddhism, Taoism. These can be atheist faith or atheist philosophies. They're not particularly convincing to me for other reasons. Like the notion of resurrection seems kind of like ad hoc and unconvincing. So like I don't buy into that. So yeah, I mean, it's just like, I don't believe in a God. There are other things I don't believe in too that excludes other religious traditions. But
have you ever heard of Charbel, known as Saint Charbel? He's a Maronite tradition.
I have not.
Can you see what I type in?
Yeah, in principle.
Right there. Did you see
I don't
that?
know who that is. Yeah.
I'd encourage you to look into Charbel. And here's the thing: I do level with you here. I do understand what you're saying when it comes to you don't know exactly what you'd accept and the premise of religion, and you don't seem like you'd want to necessarily be, how do I say, of course, a personal experience is not going to necessarily convince you
If I
either.
had it, it would absolutely convince me.
Really?
Yeah.
If you had a personal, that's kind of troubling. Like, so you think, okay, so if you had a personal experience, like say you had a dream about the future or something, you
And then the
believe in
future
God?
happened? Yeah. You
Really?
don't think that would convince me? It would at least make me seriously question my preconceived notions about the world.
I honestly don't think that doesn't see, you don't strike me. I've heard a couple of your lives. You don't strike me as someone that would convince.
I tend to believe things that happen to me as, like, I tend to not think I'm crazy. I don't think most
Okay.
people think they're crazy. So if you don't think you're crazy, and then you have something that can only be explained by either being crazy or by there existing a god, well, the alternative is there existing a god.
So would you say that you would want God to exist?
If God, well, I guess it depends on the god. If God is truly all loving, yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, that just
All
seems
right.
awesome, right? If you have something that cares about you that has all the power in the universe, like, that would be awesome. That'd be great. I'm just not convinced it's true.
No, you know what? I completely understand, and that's like, I've looked into theodicy and all these different things that, because I wasn't ever, I was agnostic. I was raised in a Christian tradition, and then I was agnostic, and then I had an experience for myself. I don't want to be presumptuous and say that's what I'm saying. That's why I don't think it seems like you would be like, oh, this was, because I definitely wasn't like that. But I've been kind of forced to concede from my own experience and study that there has to be at least some truth in this. That's why I would say look into Charbel.
So I pulled up his Wikipedia page. It just seems like he's a martyr. What's the thing that I should be looking for?
I don't think he was a martyr.
Is
No.
it Charbel of Edessa?
Charbel from Lebanon. Charbel from 1800. Much more recent.
Lebanese brigadier general and minister?
I don't know.
Oh no, that guy's still alive.
No.
Charbel. Lebanese monk and saint. I found him. Yeah.
Yeah, like, I don't know, man. I've seen stuff like that, and then I've seen like the Eucharistic miracles, and then I had, like I said, an experience myself, and it's kind of tough, man. If you look up, and it seems like you've studied the Bible quite a bit, and for example, you brought up the Amalekites before, and how how is God all loving, and He's like kill all these people. So that's something I struggled with too. Just like, how is this guy cursed because he saw his dad naked? You know. But there are what seem to be good faith explanations for those things, particularly when you read the Hebrew as it would have been read then, instead of, like, I don't know, the translations really, they just suck. They really suck. And contextually, like, that's why the Dead Sea Scrolls were one of the reasons they were such a big, what am I trying to say, eye opener for, just seeing in the time period, learning about different societies that have been lost to history, basically. So,
Well, look, I understand that, but like this whole claim that, like, oh well, the reason why it seems like God is evil in this and this part is because of bad translations. Like, you don't read Hebrew. I mean, I can read Hebrew, but not particularly well. I would trust the people who spent their whole lives getting as accurate a translation as they could, and we can just read those translations.
That would be sufficient, except for those people have been debunked time and time again.
How
Like
they
science,
like what has been debunked about it? Like the words were debunked. What does that mean? And what does it mean for a translation to be debunked?
The word. Okay, so like I was saying before, contextually, when you have terms in the New Testament, the Greek New Testament, that say things like works of the law, we don't have examples of that in first century literature, in first century Jewish literature, outside of the New Testament until they found the Dead Sea Scrolls. Then they have specifically what works of the law are for those people.
But how is that a debunking of anything?
Well, again,
that's just an example and providing more information, but it doesn't debunk anything.
It debunks people's interpretation of the text in modern times. That's what I'm saying. I grew up in a tradition that taught a certain thing about Christianity, and it's been all but disproven in it just by reading the Dead Sea Scrolls and understanding what that phrase meant. Like certain phraseology we don't have now that would have been used back then. Or for example, like again, the Greek New Testament, we have Jesus saying, go, and I think it's the book of John, he says, go to the inn and you'll find a man carrying water. Is that prophetic? Maybe, but I mean, like, does that sound weird to you? Go to the inn and you'll find a man carrying water. Does that sound like a regular phrase?
Nothing seems off about it to me.
So in that time period, in the ancient Near East, that's super weird. Men don't carry water.
Okay,
like
yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, like that's what I mean by contextually.
But like how does context say like you brought up the Amalekites? Like how does context get around that?
So for a specific, I would send you to some people that have studied this in depth. Like I like having little debates or whatever. I'm not a big fan of debates. I mean, they're cool every now and again. They get a point across as far as like TikTok brain, get that little hit of dopamine out, whatever. But
That's
overall, I mean, a lot of these things, they can't really be described in depth on even on this platform where I mean, I appreciate you not kicking me off or anything. I didn't think you would, because I try to be in good faith as possible, but like we can't really go in depth into okay, like for the Amalekites,
like there's kind of two outs here, right? For the Amalekites, you have either it didn't happen and the translations saying it happened are wrong, or it did happen but it's justified. Those are your only two outs, and I can't see either of those being correct.
So when you look at what they did, specifically they attacked the Israelites when the Israelites
like 400 years prior, right?
Right. But see, here that's another one of the timeline things. Typically, when you see people going against God, it takes about around 400 years for him to do something to them for what they did. But when the Amalekites were attacking the Israelites, they were weary from escaping Pharaoh and all these things. And they also caused a famine. They destroyed crops and harassing them, like the phraseology, again, harassing them. It's not like a one-time thing. They were continuously attacking the Israelites over and over and over again.
Sure.
So, I mean, when you have a lot,
especially, is that the claim here, that it's actually okay?
It depends on how you read it. Like, if, for example, like, do you? I know I don't know if you're a-religious, but I know you don't accept the Bible. And I don't know what your Bible tradition is. Like, do you have the Maccabean books?
I was not raised Christian.
Well, that's another thing that I'm saying. Like most Christians don't have Maccabees in their Bible either, but I'm
familiar with the book of Maccabees. Yes.
There's 4 books of Maccabees, and historically they explain certain things. Huh?
I'm only familiar with 2.
Well, yeah, there's 2 in the Catholic Bible.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm familiar with Maccabees 1 and 2. I'm not familiar with Maccabees 3 and 4.
So those books, like the Orthodox Church, for example, they have all those Maccabees books, and in their traditions, there's like the rabbinic traditions. So how do I put this? Basically, things would have been lost, like in the rabbinic tradition, where it's a lot of word of mouth, it's oral tradition, and that's basically where a lot of those books came from. And
Sure.
what was written down, I think it was like not easy to write stuff down back then. You know, it's
Yeah,
costly and
that's
time
true.
consuming. And like, okay, this is kind of again like a very. I would refer you to some other people to get an in-depth look. Oh, sorry, I thought I lost you there for a second. To get an in-depth look at that picture of what really, an expanded look at what really would have happened with the Amalekites. But it's the idea that realistically there would have been more to it than just, okay, this happened, then 400 years later, God's like, okay, kill these people.
So is the explanation actually it is okay, but there's more to it that makes it okay?
Yes.
Okay, I mean that's a tough sell. You'd have to actually like make the argument, but it doesn't sound like you want to do that right now. So
I don't think it would be realistic for me to be able to. I'm not an expert on it.
Okay, that's fair.
For me to expound on why it's just basically okay, an unprovoked attack, and it's supposed to be showing the providence of God and him keeping his promises, that
Well,
sort of thing.
Sure, but I mean, if you don't want to talk about it now, that's fine. Is there anything else you do want to talk about?
Well, I would also like. I struggle a lot with those texts from the Bible, like why Noah cursed the sons of Ham.
Well, it just sounds like
his-
you're giving me more and more reasons to think that the Bible is not a good book. So, is there
Right,
anything that you want to talk about? Is there anything that you want to talk about that might convince me, or should I move on to the next guest?
Well, I kind of think that this is kind of where I'm trying to go with it, is like where my studies have gone. Like, have you read the curse that was bestowed upon Ham for seeing, or bestowed upon his children for seeing the nakedness of Noah?
Yeah, it sounds familiar.
So, like, for example, that phraseology is translated directly as seeing his nakedness, but the ancient Hebrew, that would have been kind of like a euphemism for having sex with his mother.
Okay.
So, like, that sort of thing. That's all that I mean, I would encourage you to look into Charbel. I mean, if I could send you links to check out, some speeches on the Amalekites, as well as recent archaeological evidence for Sodom and Gomorrah. I think, at least, I mean, you seem like a person who's into learning things. So
I am, generally.
yeah, I mean, that kind of stuff has always intrigued me. I've been pretty science minded, math minded. So yeah, I mean, in good faith, I'd love to come back and discuss that stuff with you at some point if I could send it to you. Do you have like
yeah, sure. I don't like. I'm generally fairly busy with regard to reading, so I don't have a whole lot of time to read excess things. But if I get a chance, yeah, absolutely.
Do you have like an email or something, or should I just send it on here?
The best place is actually if you go to the link tree that's in my in my account description or whatever. There should be a contact me thing that will send me an email.
Okay. Well, that's what I'll do. I don't want to take up too much more time. Thanks for bringing me up.
Of course, brother. Have a good one.
All right, you too. Bye-bye.
Y'all, I will be back in, I need to end the live for a minute. I will be back in like 10-15 minutes, okay? So I'm gonna end the live. I'll be back in a bit.